this. They think that it is wrong to balance the budget on those people who are already hurting in a recession. Let us ask the people on top to start paying their fair share so that we can see some shared sacrifice in the midst of this recession. Madam President, with that, I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Peter, does anybody in the chair ever say anything about speeches that are given? Are you allowed to? Is it like in the rules? You can't say like good speech or crappy speech or are you a lunatic? Like, can you say anything?
A couple of issues in the U.S. Senate today. They will be voting shortly in about 20 minutes on the continuing resolution funding government programs at least for the next 2 weeks through Friday, March the 18th. This is the fiscal year 2011 CR. It cuts $4 billion in spending. The House passed it yesterday. That vote will happen, is scheduled to happen around 11 o'clock Eastern, and then the Senate will move on to what's being called the most substantive reform of patent law in a number of years. A bill which would, among other things, authorize the patent director to set and adjust all patent and trademark fees. It would reduce the fast-track fee for small businesses. It would also redefine the effective filing date for patents and a number of other things. So look for continued debate on patent law after the vote at 11 o'clock Eastern here in the U.S. Senate. The U.S. House, meanwhile, has wrapped up work or morning hour, general speeches for the morning. They'll be back at noon. And they will take up a couple of issues, including that so-called 1099, the tax reporting requirement that was part of the health care law. And then they'll resume debate, also begin debate, I should say, on extending surface transportation programs. The House back in at noon Eastern, and coverage is on C-SPAN. On C-SPAN 3 today, Secretary Clinton, for the second day in a row, up on Capitol Hill testifying on the administration's foreign relations budget. She was before a House committee yesterday, before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee today. They could break at 11 o'clock when this vote happens in the U.S. Senate, but it is underway now. If you'd like to watch that, that is on our companion network, C-SPAN 3. It's also online at cspan.org. And just reiterating the news you're seeing on the screen about the Supreme Court decision in the Westboro Baptist case, the court voting 8-1 in favor of Westboro Baptist. The Associated Press writing, and that's the church in Topeka, Kansas. The Associated Press writes that the decision upholds an appeals court ruling that threw out a $5 million judgment to the father of a dead Marine who sued church members after they picketed his son's funeral in Maryland. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion for the court, and the one dissenter is Justice Samuel Alito.
President.
Senator from Illinois.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be suspended.
Without objection.
And what is the pending business before the Senate?
Senate is a morning business.
I ask consent to speak as if in morning business for a few moments.
Without
Madam
objection.
President, in a few minutes, the Senate will gather here to vote on a continuing resolution which funds our federal government, in this case for 2 weeks. It is hard to believe we've reached that point in Washington where we are going to fund our United States government 2 weeks at a time. Critics may look at us and say, certainly the men and women who serve in the House and Senate ought to be able to gather together to sit down like adults, Democrats and Republicans, and really plot the spending and budget for our government for at least the remaining 7 months of this year. Doesn't seem like an unreasonable request, but instead we appear to be lurching from 1 month to 2 weeks, and I don't know what's next. What's at issue here is how much money will be spent in the remainder of this year and whether or not we will follow the House lead in a bill known as H.R. 1, the House Budget Bill, which made $100 billion in cuts for the remainder of this year. Now, the Senate has already made some $41 billion in cuts in an effort to use these spending cuts to reduce the deficit, but the House wants to move that to a higher level. I just returned this past week from a visit to my state when we had a week of recess and went from one end of the state to the other to measure the House budget cuts and its impact on my state of Illinois. And what I found is that in community after community, many of the cuts that were made by the House were not done in a thoughtful manner. I was a member of the Deficit Commission. I acknowledge that we have to deal with this deficit in a timely and serious way. I was one of the 11 who voted for the Commission report, and I stand by the Commission report, at least in its goal, to bring all of our spending on the table and to look at it seriously so that we bring this deficit down and don't saddle our children and grandchildren with this obligation to pay off our debt. But we took a measured, thoughtful approach and engaged all levels of government spending to reach our goal. The House took 14% of the federal budget, the so-called domestic discretionary section, and made all the cuts there, all of them. And as a result, they went too far. Let me give you an example of how they went too far. My last visit was the Argonne National Laboratory outside of Chicago. And I had representatives from the Fermilab, a national accelerator laboratory in the same region. The resulting cuts from the House budget will reduce the amount of money available for those two key national laboratories by 20%. It sounds painful but not crippling, and yet it is, because it is a cut that has to take place in 7 months. In the Argonne National Laboratory, they will have to lay off 1/3 of their scientists and support staff and cut back their research by 40 to 50% for the remainder of this year. Well, so what? What difference would it make? Here's the difference. Right now, that Argonne National Laboratory is doing critical research and work in areas of innovation. Where is the fastest computer in the world today? Good old US of A, right? No. The fastest computer in the world today is in China. We are doing research to make sure that we develop the next fastest computer. It isn't just bragging rights either. It's developing the technology that helps us develop our economy and develop our businesses and create jobs. Part of this laboratory, the Advanced Photon Source, brings in pharmaceutical companies from all over the United States that test drugs that cure disease. They do it right there, Argonne National Laboratory. I asked the person from Eli Lilly, well, what happens if they close down for the next 6 months? He said, I don't know where we'll go. We may have to go overseas. Where, I said. Well, Europe, he said, or perhaps India or China. Time and again, there's a recurring theme here. When we back off of an investment in America, our competitors have an advantage and an opportunity. That's why the House budget was so short-sighted. To cut back in research and innovation, the day before I'd gone to the Northwestern University Cancer Care Center, met with 50 or 60 medical doctors and researchers who said that the cuts in the House budget would force them to lay off medical researchers for the remainder of this year. Is there anyone among us who has not had a moment in life when someone sick in your family needs help and you look for the best doctor, the best hospital, and ask that question we all would ask? Doctor, is there anything going on? Is there a drug that we can turn to? Is there some experimental opportunity here? The clinical trials that are part of the National Institutes of Health will be cut back by 20% during the remainder of this year. For the oncologist at Southern Illinois University School of Medicine, he said, I have 100 people suffering from cancer who are gravely ill, and unfortunately, I can only put 80 of them in a clinical trial because of these budget cutbacks. Senator, which ones should I turn away? That is why the decisions on cutting money should require more than just bragging rights of how much you cut. We should be thoughtful. We shouldn't cut education and training. That's tomorrow's workforce. The Pell Grants that are denied today stop children, young people, from low-income families from going to school, getting an education, and be prepared for the workforce. The cutbacks in innovation and research that we've seen here with this House budget go too far. And the idea that we cannot invest in basic infrastructure for America so that our economy moves forward is so short-sighted. So today we are likely, by a strong bipartisan vote, to extend the budget of the United States government for 2 weeks. In the meantime, we have got to sit down and be honest. Honest about reducing the deficit in a thoughtful way that doesn't cripple our economy, that doesn't kill basic research, that doesn't stop job training and education we need for the workforce in the 21st century. Because I'll tell you this, if we don't think about it carefully, our competitors around the world, particularly the #2 economy in the world today, China, will have an opportunity for a toehold and an opportunity to move forward at the expense of American businesses and American workers. In this recession, with 15 million Americans out of work, we cannot afford to make the wrong decision on our budget. We have to sit down and make the right decision, carefully cutting waste and inefficiency, and there's plenty of it, but not cutting the essential services of our government that will build our economy and give us a chance to succeed in the future. Mark Zandi, who is with Moody's, has said that H.R. 1, the House budget, will literally kill 700,000 jobs in America. With 15 million Americans out of work, is that the best Congress can do? I don't think so. Let's be thoughtful about what we're going to do. Let's make sure that we get this economy moving forward, creating good-paying jobs for Americans so we can walk into a store someday, pick up a product, flip it over, and smile as we read, "Made in the USA." Wouldn't that be a great thing to prepare for by spending the money, investing our resources today for the workforce and businesses of tomorrow? Madam President, I yield the floor. Before yielding, Madam President, I ask 12 unanimous consent requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate with the approval of majority and minority leaders, and I ask consent these requests be agreed to and printed in the record.
Without objection.
I suggest the absence of quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Well, coming up shortly in the U.S. Senate, a vote on that continuing resolution, the 2-week extension of fiscal year 2011 spending through March the 18th. The House passed the bill yesterday. Senate will vote on it momentarily and then continue on with debate on patent law overhaul. On that continuing resolution and the spending issue, the administration are convinced there's no chance of reaching an agreement in the 2-week span. That would be the 2 weeks between March the 4th and March the 18th, the 18th being the end date of this continuing resolution. David Rogers writes, Republicans have set a tactical trap to maximize Senator McConnell's leverage on behalf of the House. He also writes that the stopgap bill will keep most agencies operating at their current funding levels, but will also place about $4 billion in cuts as a down payment of sorts for the GOP package. In this spirit, David Rogers writes, President Obama had offered to double the amount to $8 billion as part of a longer 30-day extension he wanted, but he was unable to convince Speaker Boehner. And again, the House passed that CR yesterday, vote coming up here shortly in the U.S. Senate.
Madam President, I would ask consent to vitiate the quorum call.
Without objection, Senator from New Mexico. Morning is closed. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to the consideration of H.J. Res. 44, which the clerk will report.
Madam President, I ask for...
H.J. Res. 44, making further continuing appropriations for fiscal year 2011 and for other purposes.
Madam President, I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will read the joint resolution for the third time.
H.J. Res. 44, making further continuing appropriations for fiscal year 2011 and for other purposes.
The question is on passage of the joint resolution. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka, Mr. Alexander, Ms. Ayotte, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Vargas. Mr. Begich. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bingaman. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Bozeman. Mrs. Boxer. Mr. Brown of Massachusetts. Mr. Brown of Ohio. Mr. Burr. Ms. Cantwell. Mr. Cardin. Mr. Carper. Mr. Casey. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Coates. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Cochran. Ms. Collins. Mr. Conrad. Mr. Coons. Mr. Corker. Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Crapo. Mr. DeMint. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Ensign. Mr. Enzi. Mrs. Feinstein. Mr. Franken. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mrs. Hagan. Mr. Harkin. Mr. Hatch. Mr. Hoven. Mrs. Hutchison. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inouye. Mr. Isaacson. Mr. Johans. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin. Mr. Johnson of South Dakota. Mr. Carey. Mr. Kirk. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Cole. Mr. Kyle. Ms. Landrieu. Mr. Lautenberg. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Lee. Mr. Levin. Mr. Lieberman. Mr. Lugar. Mr. Manchin. Mr. McCain. Mrs. McCaskill. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Menendez. Ms. Mikulski. Mr. Moran. Ms. Murkowski. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska. Mr. Nelson of Florida. Mr. Paul. Mr. Portman.
Aye for me.
Mr. Pryor.
Wait, Jim, are you going to present
Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Risch. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Rockefeller. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Sessions. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Shelby. Ms. Snow. Ms. Stabenow. Mr. Tester. Mr. Thune. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Udall, Colorado. Mr. Udall of New Mexico. Mr. Vitter. Mr. Warner. Mr. Webb. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative: Alexander, Ayotte, Barrasso, Begich, Bennett, Bingaman, Blumenthal, Blunt, Bozeman, Boxer, Brown of Massachusetts, Brown of Ohio, Burr, Cantwell, Carper, Chambliss, Cochran, Collins, Conrad, Coons, Corker, Cornyn, Ensign, Enzi, Franken, Graham, Hagan, Hoven, Hutchison, Inhofe, Inouye, Isaacson, Johans, Johnson of Wisconsin, Johnson of South Dakota, Kerry, Cole, Kyle, Landrieu, Leahy, Lieberman, Lugar, Manchin, McCain, McConnell, Menendez, Merkley, Mikulski, Nelson of Nebraska, Portman, Pryor, Roberts, Rockefeller, Rubio, Sessions, Shelby, Stabenow, Toomey, Udall of Colorado, Udall of New Mexico, Vitter, Warner, Webb, Wicker, Wyden. Senators voting in the negative: Harkin, Hatch, Lee, Paul, Risch, Sanders. Mr. Dement, aye. Mr. Grassley, aye. Mr. Coates, aye. Ms. Snow, aye. Mr. Kirk, aye. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Whitehouse, aye. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island, aye. Mr. Crapo, no. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Mr. Baucus, aye. Mr. Lautenberg, aye. Mr. Nelson of Florida, aye. Mrs. Gillibrand, aye. Mrs. McCaskill, aye. Mr. Tester, aye. Mr. Levin, no. Mr. Cardin, aye. Mr. Thune, aye. Mrs. Feinstein, aye. Mr. Casey, aye. Mr. Akaka, aye. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Mr. Schumer, aye. Mr. Reed of Nevada, aye. Mrs. Murray, no. Mr. Durbin, aye. Mr. Coburn, aye.
Anyone wishing to vote or change their vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 91, the nays are 9. The joint resolution is passed.
Madam President,
Senator from Vermont.
move to reconsider. Lay it on the table, sir. Lay it on the table.
Without objection. Under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of S-23, which the clerk will report.
Calendar number 6, S-23, a bill to amend Title 35, United States Code to provide for patent reform.
Madam President,
Senator from Vermont.
Madam President, I'm going to be speaking on this, but I understood the senator from Texas had I guess not, so let me speak on it. Yesterday, we were finally able to make progress when the Senate proceeded to a vote on the manager's amendment, the Leahy-Grassley-Kyle amendment to the America Invents Act. It's a very important amendment. It had contributions from many senators from both sides of the aisle. I think it was a little bit frustrating to the public to watch. They saw us several hours of quorum calls and then have an amendment to pass 97-2. And I would hope that we might, in doing the nation's business, we might move with a little bit more speed. But I do thank those senators who support it. And having passed the Leahy-Grassley-Kyle amendment, I believe it ensures our moving forward to Madam President, I tried to get the senator from Texas' attention before, but she was busy. Were you?
Madam President, I
Senator from
was
Texas.
going to ask the senator if I could have about 5 minutes in morning business
Could the chamber suspend their conversations?
for the annual reading of the letter from William Barrett Travis from the Alamo, because this is Texas Independence Day.
And that's why I was trying to get her senator's attention earlier. But without showing a disruption in my speech, I will yield for up to 5 minutes and then ask consent to yield for up to 5 minutes for the senator from Texas and then to have the floor be returned to me.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Senator from Texas.
I appreciate the chairman allowing me to do this. It is something that I have done every year since Senator Phil Gramm retired. He read the letter from William Barrett Travis from the Alamo on Texas Independence Day every year after Senator Tower left office. So we have a tradition every Texas Independence Day of a Texas senator reading the very moving speech from William Barrett Travis. Today is the 175th anniversary of our independence from Mexico. This past Sunday, I had the honor of participating in the Washington on the Brazos 175th anniversary of the Texas Declaration of Independence signing. It was a special occasion that brought together almost all of the 59 signers' descendants. Thousands of proud Texans came to commemorate this most pivotal event in Texas' legacy of freedom and patriotism. My great-great-grandfather, Charles S. Taylor, was willing to sign the document that declared Texas free from Mexico. I am humbled to occupy the Senate seat from Texas that was first held by Thomas Jefferson Rusk, who was another signer of the Texas Declaration of Independence. The 59 brave men did not just come in and sign a paper. They took great risk. They put their lives, their treasures, and the lives of their families on the line to do this. And 175 years later, sometimes you don't think of how hard it was for them to declare this separation from Mexico and know that there was going to be a war fought over it, because the Mexican army was in San Antonio at the Alamo getting ready to take the Alamo from William Barrett Travis and the roughly 180 men who were there who were trying to defend that fortress. The accounts of the Revolution have been some of our most dramatic stories of patriotism in both Texas and America. The sacrifice of William Barrett Travis, Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, and the others who died bravely defending the Alamo against Santa Anna and his thousands of trained Mexican troops. They were outnumbered by more than 10 to 1. For 13 days of glory, the Alamo defenders brought critical time for General Sam Houston, knowing that they would probably never leave the mission alive. The late Senator John Tower started the tradition of reading a stirring account by Alamo Commander William Barrett Travis, and Senator Graham and now I have continued that tradition. From within the walls of the Alamo, under siege by Santa Anna's Mexican army of 6,000 trained soldiers, Colonel Travis wrote this letter to the people of Texas and all Americans. Fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged with 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Anna. I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannonade for 24 hours and have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded surrender at discretion. Otherwise, the garrison is to be put to the sword if the fort is taken. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly over the wall. I shall never surrender or retreat. Then I call on you in the name of liberty, of patriotism, of everything dear to the American character, to come to our aid with all dispatch. The enemy is receiving reinforcements daily and will no doubt increase to 3,000 or 4,000 in 4 or 5 days. If this call is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets what is due his honor and that of his country. Victory or death. William Barrett Travis, Lieutenant Colonel, Commander. Steadfast to the end and independent to the core, that is the essence of Texas, Madam President. Had Colonel Travis and his men not laid down their lives in the Battle of the Alamo, Sam Houston's victory at San Jacinto just 2 months later would never have been possible. Texas freedom might not have been won. It is important that every generation of Texan pause to remember the patriots of the Texas Revolution. Each soldier who gave his life at the Alamo, Goliad, and San Jacinto, the 59 men who met at Washington on the Brazos, putting their lives in danger by signing the Declaration of Independence and becoming heroes for a cause, and the bravery of the women who gave up an easier life in the East to join the struggle to make Texas the marvelous place that it is today. Madam President, my great-great-grandmother was one of those brave women. She took her 4 children in what was called the Runaway Scrape, trying to flee eastward from Nacogdoches, where they lived, to try to escape the advancing Mexican army and the Indian raids that were happening all over East Texas. My great-great-grandmother lost all 4 of her living children during that sad and hard time for Texas. But that wasn't the last chapter in the Revolution. She came back to Nacogdoches, met my great-great-grandfather, who was there signing the Texas Declaration of Independence, and had 9 more children. So the women also were heroes and heroines of this time, and it is my honor to memorialize the Texas legacy of freedom and patriotism in this way. And, Madam President, I would ask unanimous consent that my speech to the celebration this weekend be put as a part of the record following my speech today.
Without